Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Westside Congregation. Today marks our first ever online service. We hope that wherever you are and whenever you watch this, you find it to be thought-provoking and meaningful. We also hope you'll roll your eyes and laugh a little too. You will note that below the video on your screen, you can access the comment section. Please feel free to post questions, comments, and general feedback about the service in this space. You may also comment on other people's comments or respond to their questions. We will be using the comment section regularly to engage in online conversation with each other. Our program today is based on Principles 2 and 7. Justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, and respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part, along with Source 5, humanist teachings which counsel us to heed the guidance of reason and the results of science, and warn us against idolatries of the mind and spirit. We hope you will find these reflected in our time together today. This program is the result of a host of people working together. Your board, who authorized this format, Bram Casthecht, who contributed our Animal Ministry Moment materials, and Jimmy Stevens, who has provided equipment, acted as cameraman and editor, and posted this to our website in his capacity as our webmaster. If you have never visited Westside before, we welcome you and invite you to introduce yourself after the service in the comment section. Please contact the church office if you would like to be added to our mailing list, and check the website for information about the return of on-site services. We do not anticipate that will happen soon. It is dependent upon the guidelines from health and government officials. I have several announcements for us today. First, all regularly scheduled on-site activities are canceled until further notice. We will be working with committees and classes to establish a format that works for them, such as email or a conference call or one of many other technological options. If you sit on such a team, expect to be notified by email about the conversation in regard to facilitating your group's activity. If you have suggestions or questions about how to do this, please list them in the comment section below the video or email them to the office. I encourage you to check the website and our Facebook pages regularly for updates. And I am happy to announce that we have a newly developed community network in place that is designed to make sure that everyone in our UUWC community has an opportunity to talk with someone else from our community each week. One of a team of volunteers will be calling to say hello and ask if there is anything you need. Please do not be shy. If you need meds picked up, or food, or mail at the post office, or even our newest form of wealth, that is toilet paper, please let your caller know. They will pass the information on to me, and I will access a variety of resources to respond to it. Please also take a few minutes to chat, perhaps about this service or whatever else matters to you. Our hope is that we will continue to feel connected to one another by strengthening existing bonds and building new ones, all with a simple phone call. You may opt out of the program at any time by emailing the office. The email office is on our website. Let us light our chalice now. Down through the ages, people have lit flames against the dark. We light fires to keep us warm, to protect us from harm, to illuminate the places where we gather. Today we light this flame as a beacon for community. May we who are separated by quarantine and social distancing come together in spirit and in purpose. Shalom. Listen now to our aspirations. Life is a gift. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and the mysteries of this great gift. In the light of truth and in the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve others in community, to the end that all souls grow into harmony with creation. Thus do we covenant with one another. Blessed be. Let us take a few moments now to center ourselves. So wherever you are, get as comfortable as you can. Relax your body, uncrossing ankles, knees, wrists. Put down anything you might be holding. You may close your eyes or choose a meaningful focal point. And begin to focus on your breathing. Breathing fully and deeply down into your abdomen and out through your nose and in again. Letting your mind go blank, releasing the chaos and irritation of recent events, just breathing fully, sinking into yourself, and then in your mind's eye, picture yourself at the center of a beautiful web of color and texture. Each thread connects you to a person who is part of your life. Some you see regularly, some you see rarely, but all are connected to you. All are part of the design woven around and through you that claims these people as part of your life. Gaze at your web, examine it, appreciate it, and then become an active center. Spin yourself around and gather your web into yourself, bringing an awareness of the meaningful ties in your life back with you into the here and now. Continue to breathe slowly and deeply, safe in the knowledge that your connections are amazing and they are still with you. And then slowly let yourself reorient to your present space. And when you are ready, open your eyes. Shalom. Part of our role as a community is the sharing of each other's joys and the support we offer each other in crisis and in sorrow. Sharing our joys and concerns strengthens the network among us that supports us all. This morning, I will share the joys and concerns that I am aware of at this time and light this very large candle for all of them. If you have joys and concerns to share, please list them in the comment section and we will include them by name in next week's service. Today we share a common concern with the citizens of the world who are struggling to make sense of the measures necessary to contain the coronavirus. We are concerned about those who are ill. We are concerned for those who are grieving for people who have died. We are grateful for the measures that responsible officials of all sorts have put into place to maintain safety. We rejoice in the stories of human caring that we see as people around the world rise to the occasion and reach out to one another. We are glad that even in the midst of quarantine, people can sing and share music across the open spaces with each other. We hold concern for those who have been furloughed, for those whose academic and professional careers have been interrupted, for those struggling to find meaning in a new and unexpected isolation, for those overwhelmed by confinement. For them, we light this candle. We light this candle for unexpected joy, for caring and compassionate neighbors, for resilient communities, and for a future yet to be. For all of these things and many more, we light this candle in honor of life. Shalom. In our animal ministry moment this morning, we will once again explore some of the insights that we find in our relationships with the larger animal world. Today, I am bringing you, courtesy of Bram, a little bit of wisdom from the doggy llama. And no, I did not make that up. Know that you can handle whatever is dished out, says the doggy llama. Sometimes you'll feel lost and all alone. Don't worry, it's all part of the growth experience. There will be many obstacles you cannot get around. You just have to get through them. And you should picture the doggy llama standing in front of an empty food dish, dispensing that wisdom. This pretty much sums up the best possible response to the COVID-19 virus and all of the unexpected restrictions that we are all living with. We can't do an end run around it. We just have to live through it. The question becomes, how will we do that? How will we choose to live with the new rules and changes in our daily lives, the necessary distance in our relationships, and the rapidly changing events in our world? There is no single right answer, but there are many poor ones. Now, our time for all ages today is a story about a woman who made a choice about what to do with her time. It goes like this. Every Sunday morning, I take a light jog around a park near my home. There's a lake located at the corner of the park. Each time I jog by this lake, I see the same elderly woman sitting at the water's edge with a small metal cage sitting beside her. This past Sunday, my curiosity got the best of me, so I stopped jogging and walked over to her. As I got closer, I realized that the metal cage was in fact a small trap. There were 3 turtles, unharmed, slowly walking around the base of the trap. She had a 4th turtle in her lap that she was carefully scrubbing with a spongy brush. "Hello," I said. "I see you here every Sunday morning. If you don't mind my nosiness, I'd love to know what you're doing with these turtles." She smiled. "I'm cleaning off their shells," she replied. Anything on a turtle's shell, like algae or scum, reduces the turtle's ability to absorb heat and impedes its ability to swim. It can also corrode and weaken the shell over time. "Wow, that's really nice of you," I exclaimed. She went on. "I spend a couple of hours each Sunday morning relaxing by this lake and helping these little guys out. It's my own strange way of making a difference." "But don't most freshwater turtles live their whole lives with algae and scum hanging from their shells?" I asked. "Yes," she replied, "sadly, they do." I scratched my head. "Well then," in true UU fashion, I asked, "don't you think your time could be better spent? I mean, I think your efforts are kind and all." But there are freshwater turtles living in lakes all around the world, and 99% of these turtles don't have kind people like you to help them clean off their shells. So, no offense, but how exactly are your small efforts here truly making any difference? The woman laughed out loud. She then looked down at the turtle in her lap, scrubbed off the last piece of algae from its shell, and said to me, "Sweetie, if this little guy could talk, he'd tell you that I just made all the difference in the world." In these frustrating times, in which we often can't do the things that we usually do to help make our world a better place, we need to remember that every little bit helps. Even the smallest kindness makes a difference. There may not be any turtles near your house who need help scrubbing off their shells, but find the equivalent of that in your life and go to it, because what you do makes a difference. Now, our moment of joy for today is the story that some of you, I will expect, have already seen, but is well worth repeating. The story of people singing to each other in response to the COVID-19 lockdown, particularly in Italy. So here is the newscast on that. Quarantined Italians have been singing and playing music from their balconies to express solidarity and suppress boredom during the nationwide COVID-19 lockdown. Videos have been shared on social media of Italians singing, dancing, and playing music together while in lockdown due to the outbreak of the virus. In what is the nation worst affected by the pandemic after China, daily life has virtually ground to a halt, with only some food shops, banks, and pharmacies remaining open, and many streets eerily deserted. Neighbors have tried to boost their morale by singing together, including in the Tuscan city of Siena. They do that so that, quote, everyone feels less lonely. Residents in the port city of Salerno in the south of the country have been recorded singing the country's national anthem from their balconies. A Twitter user, Leonardo Carella, has compiled a series of uplifting clips of residents singing, playing instruments, and even doing the Macarena in cities including Florence, Naples, Siena, and Turin. At the start of the chain of videos, Carella wrote, "Italians in lockdown all over Italy are keeping each other company by singing, dancing, and playing music from their balconies. This is a thread to celebrate the resilience of ordinary people." Italy's 60 million people are in lockdown due to the severity of the coronavirus in their country, second only to China. In the early days of the outbreak, people in Wuhan, China, ground zero for this virus, also sang to each other across suddenly empty streets. And if you go online and simply search for Italians singing in lockdown, you can see the clips for yourself. Now, ordinarily, at this point in time in our service, we have come to the point of our gifts of love and commitment. Each week, we set aside time to pay attention to the many ways that our community comes together in love and support. When we meet on site, we follow that with our Sunday morning offering. Today, I remind you that our expenses have not changed. Our bills for the building and utilities and staff remain the same. So we thank you for either mailing your contribution to us at Post Office Box 15146, 15146, in Rio Rancho, New Mexico 87174, or using the PayPal button on our website. Simply click on PayPal and follow the directions if you would like to do that. And thank you very much for your gift of love and commitment. Now I have to tell you that we had hoped to be able to have some music here and to scroll the lyrics of the hymn across your screen as you listen to it. We're still learning, and at least my learning curve is pretty steep. So I'm not going to sing to you, I will spare you that, but I would like to share with you this special set of lyrics that a fellow named Tommy Snell, the music director of First Unitarian Church of Rochester, has written specifically for we Unitarian Universalists in our current circumstances with the virus and the quarantine and all of that. Now, in your heads, you should start humming the Ode to Joy, because that's what he chose to set his lyrics to. So in between the lines and my words, you need to hear that melody of joy. It goes like this. Kindred, we now meet to worship, reaching out through screen and phone. Though we dwell in isolation, we don't have to be alone. Worshipping beyond our building, our connection's no less real. Though we cannot meet in person, covenant unites us still. Siblings, share a song of gladness, lifting spirits, spreading cheer, so that in these days of sadness we won't be consumed by fear. In this time of mass confusion, sickness, loss, and quarantine, let's encourage one another, hands not joined, but hearts still held. Friends, be gentle with each other. There's so much we're going through. May this be a time for healing, holding space for grieving too. Bodies, minds, and hearts are weary. Anguish fills the aching soul. But we know with perseverance, broken hearts can be made whole. Blessed be. Our reading today, while it is found in the back of your hymnal, its original source is from Ecclesiastes chapter 3. I expect it will sound very familiar, and you may have music that pops into your head when you hear these words too, which is a fine thing. There is an appointed time for everything, a time for every event under heaven, a time to give birth and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to search and a time to give up as lost, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear apart and a time to sew together, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. Shalom. As we begin our formal sermon time this morning, we might want to update Ecclesiastes' ancient words to include a time to roam freely and a time for quarantine, a time for being together and a time for social distancing, and finally, a time for containing contagion and a time for celebrating health. We are going to get there again. In a very short period of time, an organism that we had never heard of has upended the world as we know it. COVID-19 managed to migrate from bats to pangolins to people and stop us in our tracks. Most of us don't even know what a pangolin is, never mind being on a first-name basis with the virus. Now we recognize both its scientific name and its nickname, corona, based on the spiny protuberances that look like a crown on the outer surface of the virus. For specific information about the virus, the illness it causes, and the state and federal responses to it, please use a reputable news outlet and keep yourself updated. Circumstances change very rapidly and sometimes in unexpected ways, so keeping informed is very important. What I want you to think about with me today is the spiritual dimension of the pandemic. Not that the virus itself has a spiritual dimension, it can't even regulate its own temperature, but that our human sense of meaning and purpose, of connectedness and community, the elements of our spiritual selves, these have been drastically affected by the necessary responses to the pandemic. And while we're probably all feeling more than a little stressed out, Mother Nature has annoyingly built some silver linings into this nasty little corona cloud. But first, the difficulties. We are now living in a highly constricted and officially regulated state. Few of us have any experience of coping with that. Military service has prepared some of us for living with rules and regulations about things that the general public freewheels on, but most of us are pretty self-directed. We regard it as our right to determine our own daily activities, to choose where to eat, where to shop, and who to share all of those experiences with. We go to school or work without wondering what the impact of our public presence has on anyone else. We buy as much as we want as of whatever we want. We go to concerts and plays and sports events just because we want to. And now we can't do that. Non-essential stores and businesses are closed. Those that are open are limited to serving 10 people at a time. Both the state and the grocery store chains have limited how much of popular items we can buy at one time. People are furloughed from work, many without pay. Kids and adult students alike have been sent home with no end to their unasked-for vacation in sight. Newscasters remind us that even if we ourselves are healthy and can reasonably expect to have only a mild case of the virus if we get it at all, we're jeopardizing the health of other vulnerable people if we refuse to isolate ourselves. Suddenly, our freedom and rights seem to have vanished. We feel powerless and frustrated, confused and overwhelmed. We wonder why the life we found so valuable has been put on hold, especially since most of us don't even know anyone who's actually gotten sick from this virus. We hear the information about the symptoms and lasting lung disease and death, and we wonder if someone is just trying to scare us. Sadly, the answer to that is no. No one is just trying to scare us. But being scared is part of our current reality. There is just too much that we don't know, too much that has changed too fast, too much that we love that we've lost, to not be scared. Being scared is an appropriate response to the need for lockdown and quarantine measures to contain this virus. So we ask ourselves, why? Some of us will wonder why Mother Nature seems to have turned against us. Some of us will wonder why God, by whatever name we use, has abandoned us or is testing us or punishing us. We want to know why this is happening, what it means, and what the purpose of this virus is. These are big questions. Someday, we might have answers to them. Right now, scientists know that 30% of the protein adaptations in the human race since we separated from the chimpanzees on the evolutionary tree are due to viruses. Now that's a good thing. Viruses can be good things. But how do disease-producing viruses differ from that 30% that are helpful? No one knows yet. Eventually, we're likely to. But here's the thing. How will it matter to us to know why the COVID-19 virus is at work among us? No matter what Mother Nature or the deity of your choice has up their sleeve, you and I still need to respond to the realities this virus has caused in our own lives. So let's take why right out of the conversation. It's an eternal question, but not the one that matters most right now. What matters most is how we're responding to the new reality that we're living in. How are we taking care of ourselves? How are we taking care of each other? How are we taking care of the world around us? In a peculiar way, one of the things that has not changed is our purpose in life and the way we make meaningful sense of it. All the virus has done is forced our hand, made us more aware of our responsibility to care for self and others, more aware of the world and its systems around us. We're still called to be communal creatures who live with a conscious sense of relationship to other people, other species, and the whole world around us. That hasn't changed. How we are communal, that has changed. And it will probably change a lot more before this pandemic is over. The very fact that you are watching this service on your computer is a huge change. All of a sudden, the technology that we worried would isolate us and diminish our humanity is preserving our connections and protecting our lives. Here's where choice comes in. We have a choice to make in regard to how we respond to these changes. We can see them as intrusive and destructive and spend our energy hating them. We can sulk and justify the sulking by reciting the ways in which things are different now than we want them to be. Or we can accept the changes as opportunities to grow and be creative in ways that we never thought of before. And that is the silver lining in a very dark cloud. Sometimes, in all honesty, it is much easier to sulk. It's easy to be angry. Anger feels powerful. It makes us feel strong. It makes us also very hard to live with. And if we're all angry all the time, life isn't going to be fun for anyone. So choose not to be angry. Choose to be aware and responsible and creative. Choose to be the grown-up who pays attention to their own psyche and acts responsibly. Choose to sing to your neighbor even if they think you're nuts. Choose to do things which make you and your world safer, more peaceful, more creative, more desirable to live in. In everything, choose life. Now, here are some specific choices we can make. We are isolated. Communication and belonging are even more important in these circumstances. So call the people that you usually don't. Don't wait for them to call you. Make that phone call. Email them. Make use of social media so you can connect with other people. Not usually your thing? Never appealed to you before? Not a good reason not to try it now. Because now, things are different. Both you and others need to connect in new ways. Stretch the envelope you see yourself living in and try something new, even if you used to think it was stupid. It's not stupid now because life has changed. Stupid means refusing to learn and insisting our previous values and way of life are the right ones, despite the fact that much of life has changed. So change and grow. Connect in new ways. You're isolated. We all are. Go for a walk in your neighborhood and make sure you wave and smile at every car that passes by. Greet others who are out walking too. Exchange pleasantries from 6 feet away, yes, but holler a greeting. Bring a bag and collect trash as you go. Make the earth a prettier place. And by the way, if you're a pet owner, scoop. We have more unclaimed time on our hands than we used to. We need to be productive. We need to be creative. So take a look around your house or your apartment. Where's that cookbook you haven't had a chance to play with yet? Sewing project. Where's the journal you've been meaning to write in? Get it out and start writing. All the things on your to-do list that were waiting for someday to get done. Someday is here. It's now. Embrace the opportunity. We all find ourselves in a confined space, whether we like it or not. And I have to tell you that my son definitely did not when I shared this with him as a teenager. Orderly space that is clean and uncluttered makes us feel better psychologically. Science has studied the issue and declared your mother the winner. Clean your room and you'll feel better. And not just because she'll get off your case, but because our minds are constantly assessing and adjusting to our environment, and messiness is stressful. Plus, how virtuous will you feel when you finally tackle and complete all the cleaning projects you've been putting off because there were so many other demands on your time? Organize your closet, collect the stuff you can donate to charity, and set it aside. And what about our need to be creative? Try moving furniture around. What else have you got to do? Just sit on it? Place the art on your walls in new places. Make that complicated recipe that takes all day. Paint an accent wall with leftover paint from your garage. Write poetry, short stories. Maybe even begin that great American novel that you haven't gotten to yet. And go outside and look at your space there. Plant something, weed something. Make the space beautiful. Feed the birds. Did you know that if you sit really, really quietly with bird seed in your hands or in the folds of your clothing, the little birds will actually come and eat right out of your hand? It takes patience and perseverance and doing it day after day after day, but it really does happen. We've got the time right now to do things like that and to connect with the world around us in a new way. And if you don't have yard space at your condo or apartment, guess what? The church has lots of it. We've got huge grounds, and we would welcome you to drive up, park your car, get out in the fresh air, pull weeds, do yard work of some sort. If you'd like to plant a flower in one of the garden spaces, that is fine. You do have to come back to water it. But feel free to beautify our shared space also. And if you happen to be here when somebody else is, yes, absolutely, stay 6 feet apart from everybody and just sort of call greetings back and forth to each other. Use the labyrinth. We have two. Both of them can use some tending to and manicuring and are open for use. We're not restricted to just a really small box here. There are things we can do that will help us to engage and to feel creative. If all else fails, look out your window and look up at the mountains. Look out your window and look across the desert. Find a way to appreciate the perspective that life is larger than just us. Now, you may not think of these as spiritual issues, but taking care of your mind and body make a big difference to your spirit. So engage in something that challenges you mentally. Read up on a new subject, or take on a new hobby, or learn a new language. That's what the internet is for, and you can do that. And sleep. Get enough sleep so that you're rested and wake up refreshed. For some of us, this will be a novel experience. So let yourself have this new experience of being fully rested. Eat right. Exercise. Remember, we're going to get out and walk. That counts. Now, if you're someone who lives with other people, sit down with them and talk about what each of you needs to function well in these new circumstances. Who needs alone time? Who needs to get out and exercise? What can you do together to make your little community, your family, a healthy one? How can you affirm and respect one another in close quarters? What helps you laugh together? And when you've figured those things out, do them. Whether you're a long-time couple or brand new housemates with someone, the need and the process are the same. Now, none of these responses is going to make the anxiety and fear about getting sick go away. None of these responses will make the need to isolate ourselves and stay home disappear. The threat of serious and deadly illness is real, and how we respond really matters. Choosing to respond constructively is the silver lining in this otherwise very dark cloud. And it is a choice. We can choose to use our time to reflect on ourselves and our relationships, to examine our priorities. We can choose to find new ways to revision and recreate meaningful connections and community. We will never be glad for the illness the COVID-19 virus causes, but we can ultimately be glad in how we responded, how we redefined our lives and learned more about how to be human and live in relationship despite adversity. Crises like this pandemic bring out both the best and the worst in human beings. It's not easy to be forced into a different lifestyle than we'd chosen for ourselves. It really calls the question of what it means to be human. Is it all about me, or is it all about community? In reality, it's about finding a balance that forfeits neither. A balance in which we have a strong sense of ourselves as individuals with a determined commitment to relationship and community. One truth we cannot unlearn from this pandemic is that we are all affected by one another. Every single one of our lives and how we live them matters to everyone else. And sometimes it will matter to the point of life and death, and we won't even know it. This is still not easy. It's a challenge. What I've just said is only the proverbial tip of the iceberg. In the coming days and weeks, there will be new changes to adapt to and new challenges to rise to. But we can do this. We are the creature on the planet who is self-reflective and creative, who adapts to all sorts of circumstances and learns. Always we learn how to survive, how to declare our humanity and celebrate life. So, from the ancient Hebrew, down through the ages and around the globe, despite the pandemic and the quarantine. We say l'chaim, to life. So be it. Now, I invite you to use the comment section under this video to share your thoughts and feelings with our newly established online community. Please feel free to ask questions, to share your thinking in response to what you have seen and heard. We also welcome your feedback about what it's like for you to view the service in this online format. Your suggestions are welcome as we adapt to our new circumstances and grow in new ways. And now I ask you to clear your mind and open your heart as we extinguish our chalice. May the flame we extinguish here still glow within our hearts, inspiring us to adapt and grow despite adversity. May we connect and support each other in a vital network of relationships that is our community. Go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you wherever you are. Shalom.